can't wait to share the 5 things that I've done that have really helped me get to a point where I'm super excited about the project. Hi, I'm Marguerite Fora. Great to have you here. If this is your first time, welcome to my channel. I am an aspiring author and I'm currently taking my second attempt at getting a debut novel out there. I recently wrote a memoir and decided to abandon that project, and this past week I have really focused on my new project, and I can't wait to share the 5 things that I've done that have really helped me get to a point where I'm super excited about the project and also really hopeful about the story. And hopefully this is going to be the project that ends up getting me an agent and hopefully being the book that is eventually published. So it is a romance novel, which is different to the memoir that I recently abandoned. I know romantasy seems to be the big trendy genre on the internet at the moment. I haven't read a romantasy novel yet. If you've read one and you can recommend maybe some good ones, let me know about them in the comments. I'd love to know what the hype is all about. I just haven't read it because I don't know, it's just something I've never thought about reading. So maybe if I see enough of the same title in the comments, then I'll be like, okay, cool, this is the book I'm starting with. However, mine's going to be a good old-fashioned romance novel. Romance books are the types of books that I just love to read. I just find them so comforting and just like the little holiday I need to visit or just sink my teeth into at the end of the day. So that's what I am hoping to write. And I've started with a story that arrived to me in the strangest way, but I'm going to share a bit about the story and a bit about this process because I am 5 days into writing this novel. I'm 10,000 words down, almost 40 pages in, but I think with formatting, maybe that'll change. And I've made some notes just about the 5 things so that we keep on track. So I'm going to start with picking an idea. So when it came to picking an idea, I was a bit overwhelmed because I had so many ideas. I'm just going to reach back and show you guys my not so little black book that I have spoken about on this channel before. And this has been my ideas journal. So I have had the most incredible cinematic moments happen to me this year that when it happened, sometimes it wasn't like the most ideal thing to happen, but I was like, oh my gosh, this would be the perfect enemies to lovers meet cute, or this would be the perfect turning point. So like I would just go through these moments, and as they were happening, I would just think about how they could fit a story. So rather than getting too worked up in the moment of what was actually going on, I was just like, okay, remember this, and write it down. And so that's what I've got here, is a whole bunch of cinematic moments, turning points, act breaks, but also full ideas. So as you guys may have seen if you've been on this channel for a while, I have written a lot of screenplays, and there are 3 screenplays that I feel are just done. They are beautiful. They are just, man, if somebody just wanted to buy them and turn them into a movie, that would be amazing. But I think what might happen is I might actually just have to turn these into books, and I'm really excited to turn them into books. However, because I've just come through a phase of having poured so much of me and my heart into a story and then choosing to abandon that project, I just felt like I needed to work on something that was just going to be fun. And thinking about how to turn a screenplay into a novel is a lot of admin, and I just didn't see a lot of joy in doing that. I was open to it, but when I drove out to my favorite coffee shop this past Monday, I just found myself really excited about working on a brand new idea. So I got this idea about a week ago when I drove out to this coffee shop, and when I arrived there, somebody had stolen their electricity cables, and so the coffee shop was closed, and it's 40 minutes away from my home. But as I was driving there, I was listening to Good Girls on Vacation from Flo Rida, followed by a song called Lose You by Cheat Codes. And as I was just like replaying these songs over and over again, the whole drive there, just the story sort of formed in my brain. And when I arrived and I figured out I had to turn around and go home, I wasn't frustrated because I was so excited about what I'd sort of dreamed up that staying in that space was quite cool. So I just drove back home. And when I got home, I wrote down pretty much the entire idea. So did I plot it? No. Did I outline it? Maybe. But really, I just had a massive brain dump. So this is my massive brain dump. As you can see, it's quite a few pages. But because I've got a history of having written quite a few screenplays and being quite comfortable with the act structures and just how stories are supposed to flow, I know that my brain dump was somewhat formulaic, if that's even a word, I'm not sure, but there was a formula to it. So I know it hits the right beats, and I think that's why I was so excited about it, because there's nothing more encouraging for me than knowing pretty much the whole story. So when I drove out to this coffee shop again, and when I sat down to start writing, I felt very excited about this new idea, and I just let my fingers dance across the keyboard and type whatever it is that they wanted to type. And so even though I was willing to jump between projects, when I started this new project, I just had this piece that, you know what, this is something I'm really excited about, and this is an idea that I'd like to see through, at least for now. So this takes me to the second point, which is for me to start something new. I find facing the blank page to be one of the most challenging, and it's just not, I'm not pulled in that direction ever. And every single page I write is a new blank page, and every single chapter I start is again a new blank page. So there's just a lot of blank pages that I have to face. And for me to approach this, I find that I'm a lot more willing to do this if I feel inspired. And I know we don't all have the luxury of going to the place that makes us feel inspired, or perhaps having time to allow for inspiration to come and visit us. But I was able to carve out the time this week to drive to my favorite coffee shop, as well as a different coffee shop midweek, and to put myself in an environment that really energizes me and boosts my creativity. So I went this past Monday to this coffee shop, and how I write is I just write until I order cake and then I have my cake break, and that almost gives me the electrolytes, jokes, the sugar I need to hit the second half, and then I will write some more after my cake. So having a cake break is really nice. I mean, everything about this coffee shop is just so aesthetically appealing, and the music they play in the background, and just everywhere I look I can't help but smile. Just there's so much beauty in every single detail, and I love it. And then I went to a different coffee shop midweek, and again, just the music in the background and just the coffee, oh, it was so beautiful. And then at the end of the week, I went back to the coffee shop that I went to on Monday, and again, I just took it all in and let all of the inspiration just move through me, through my fingers, onto the keyboard, and then onto that blank page. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, I worked from home. But I felt like I just set myself up with enough of the things that energize me so that I could get through this week, and that I was excited for each writing session. So for me, creating a space where I feel inspired really helps me. And even at home, I will try to clean up my office and make sure that it's clean. If I work in a clean space, I feel like it just helps my thoughts sort of move a little bit better. And even though I say that I'm not too fussy of where I write at home or when I write at home, I know I just really need to sit down. And when I do eventually sit down, I find that actually sitting down is the hardest part. So when I get into my chair, then I usually feel like I'm able to go. And I knew this past week that I had the little coffee shop breaks in the week that would just give me more than I needed to face the blank page. Now, the third thing that I focused on was going with the flow. So although I did have a rough idea, I mean, if you were to look at this, it's really bullet points. Some of it is, I mean, there's a good, idea of what I'm going for. Well, towards the end here, it's not. It's literally like bullet point, and they're all sentences. Where here I've got more paragraphs, and here it's not so fleshed out. But I go back to this. This is just a rough reminder of the idea that I got. However, when it comes to actually writing, man, I have approached the story in a way as if I just stepped into a harness and somebody just pulled me through this kaleidoscope of colors with stories just evolving around me, and me just looking and choosing and taking what I want to and leaving what I don't want. It's just felt very freeing. Just listening to myself, this might sound a little bit strange, but I remember reading Big Magic and hearing Elizabeth Gilbert talk about how ideas come to people. And she shared this example of how this one poet would be out in the field, and then it would feel as if this poem came to her, and she would just have to run back to her house as fast as she could so that she could write it all down, in the hope that it doesn't sort of flow away onto the next person. And Elizabeth Gilbert also shares an example of an idea she had that she just decided not to work on. I mean, she had the full idea. And then a couple of months later, she was speaking to her friend, and it turns out that her friend was busy writing pretty much the exact book that she wanted to write without even knowing that Elizabeth Gilbert first had the idea. And the whole point was just that ideas flow, and if you don't take it, it might go on to the next person. And I've also personally experienced this in life where I did something and a friend actually mentioned to me she always wanted to do it, and because she didn't act on it, I acted on it, but I had no idea that this was something that she wanted to do. So it's quite interesting, because I've experienced it being the person who's caught the idea, and now writing the story, I am just being so aware of all of the ideas, and I'm trying to just be grateful for them, and just hold on to them rather than trying to be too serious about any form of structure. And this is the first draft that I'm working on, so approaching it with a playful attitude and just being open to anything has been really helpful. So that's been my approach to writing this first draft so far. Now, the fourth thing that I have focused on is something that I have never done before. When I typically write the first draft, I just go in there and I write whatever it is that I want to write. However, after finishing my memoir and then doing the first draft of editing, I was humbled is an understatement. It was not a nice experience editing my first draft after having written the first draft, because this just writing for the sake of writing is really fun when it comes to writing a first draft. But for me, it can create a whole bunch of holes where a story doesn't flow. And so what I am trying this time around is editing. So I'll go in and I'll just write a whole chapter, and just let it be as free and as flowing and as fun as it can possibly be. And then I will edit it. And then I'll move on to the next chapter. And what I have found this week, I think I'm 13 chapters in. The chapters are fairly short. It's been really nice doing this, because as I am working on a chapter, I can already pick up holes, and then this allows me to either usually add something in earlier chapters so that the story keeps making sense, and so that I am somewhat aware of smaller themes tracking throughout the book from the beginning. So this is a process that I am finding to be quite helpful, but also a little bit fun, because I don't have to face a blank page so often. So I'll face a blank page and just write whatever, just so that I've got something to work with, and then I can work with it. And this approach is working for me at the moment, and I'm very pleasantly surprised. And yeah, like I said, I'm 10,000 words in, just a bit more than 10,000 words, and I feel quite encouraged to keep going. And then this brings me onto the fifth and final point that I'll be talking about today, and that is, I feel like I'm at a point now where I would like to discuss my book with an editor. So what I did with my memoir, I finished the whole thing, and then I finished my first round of editing, and then I sent it to an editor, and it was a very expensive process. And I think, it might have been cool to maybe try develop the story with someone else, or at least have somebody share some thoughts, because even now there's certain things I'm asking myself, like, should I have introduced this earlier? But I didn't want to introduce it earlier because of certain reasons, and so I introduced it later. But maybe if I actually just discuss this with somebody who's not so into the story as I am, maybe they could give me a fresh perspective. So what I would like to do is send these first 10,000 words off to an editor, as well as just the bullet points for what I envision the rest of the story to look like. And I would like to discuss this with somebody. So I have been working with an editor, well, I at least worked with an editor for my memoir, and I just really enjoyed working with her. There were also other editors that I met in the process of finding an editor that have strong developmental skills. So I might actually just try work with a different editor, but I don't know, so many things to think about. But regardless of the next steps, I'm just really proud of where I am currently. I'm glad that I went at this again, because I felt really down after abandoning the memoir. I just put so much work into that, and if you've ever had to quit on a project, you get it. But yeah, so if you're working on something new, tell me about it in the comments. How's it going? And let me know how you typically go about writing, because I'm finding that so far it's different for every single project that I'm working on. But thank you for spending your time with me. I'll see you in the next video when I give you a future update. All right, take care. Bye.